Welcome everybody to the DC New 52 review. I want to thank you for tuning into this episode. I am your host as always, Pauly DC, and let's get into another one of these things. Today I will review the Night of the Owls crossover. It was released between the spring and summer of 2012, and the creative teams will be listed with each issue covered. This major Bat Family crossover was the very first of the New 52, and within the event, issues number 9 were produced from Redhood and the Outlaws, Batwing, Batman and Robin, Batgirl, Detective Comics, Batman the Dark Knight, Birds of Prey, and Catwoman. I didn't forget about Nightwing. I only left him for last because due to his major involvement with the Court of the Owls plotline, issues 8 and 9 were needed from his series. The premise of each story here is the Bat Allies protecting Gotham City from the Court of the Owls assassins called the Talons, coming from the Batman series, and I would highly recommend you check out those videos before going any further with this review. I'm gonna begin with Batgirl, Barbara Gordon, and things start here with some real history dating back to World War II, more specific, November 1944 Japan, where we read a letter being written by a young girl named Ayumi to her parents saying that her and other girls that are practically slaves are helping create the over 9,000 Fugo balloon bombs, which her country sent over the Pacific Ocean to attack North America. The only recorded casualty took place in Bulai, Oregon, where one balloon sadly killed a family, and that takes us to 1946 Gotham, which is the location of a child survivor from the single-landed bomb attack named Mary, who was later taken in by Haley Circus due to having no tongue and severely scarred face. Her hardships have terrifyingly only begun though, as she is selected by the Court of the Owls since her skill was most impressive, and Haley Circus provided subjects to them every generation for Talon recruitment. This gave her the dishonor, I suppose, of being one of the few female Talons, which has Batgirl now currently yelling extremely G-rated remarks when first seeing her in the Indonesian community of Gotham due to explosions near the area. The two girls fight briefly, with the timestamp here being 6:07, meaning Batgirl is the first Bat ally to take on this new wave of Talons, since the Wayne Manor attack happened just after 7. And because of this, she has no clue what she's even fighting here, or should I say losing to now, as Talon Mary winds up having her hanging off a building for dear life, but instead of delivering a killing blow, pokes Batgirl on the head and takes off. However, not before a piece of old paper was snuck from her. About an hour later, at 7:04, Police Commissioner and father to Barbara, Jim Gordon, is threateningly found by a Court of Owls flunky telling him to do nothing about the ensuing Night of the Owls and to not light the bat signal or his daughter dies. Babs is next seen reading the kanji on the paper taken from Mary, which somehow tells her a similar attack is coming right as detectives McKenna, a main player in this title, and Nye, who's in Nightwing, tell Jim about the events going down in Red Hood and the Outlaws, plus Batman and Robin. So with little choice, he tries to get a message to his daughter on a secret phone, but the court was ready for that, setting off their own balloon bombs at the Central Police Station, killing a cop in front of him and McKenna. Yeesh. Batgirl is arriving at this location as more bombs are dropping, and Alfred is getting his warning and assistance message out to the Bat family, giving her some clarity on the Court of the Owls. So she takes on Talon Mary while Jim now tries to make his way through the building, still being bombed heavily, which Batgirl ends up using to her advantage because with none of the previous tactics used doing anything, she reluctantly tosses Talon Mary into a bomb in a bid to save her father. Gotta love their relationship. Mary was able to survive the blast, going on to show Batgirl her face and scribble a message about wearing masks in a moment of understanding between the girls. Lastly, Commish Gordon has made it to the bat signal, just like the court knew he would, but when he flicks it on, a glowing owl logo casts up into the sky instead, shocking both him and Batgirl and bringing Batman out from his cave. Batwing number 9 comes in next, with this issue kicking off in 1856 Gotham with that era's Court of the Owl's high table members discussing the early dismissal of current Talon Alexander Staunton due to him being a vicious psycho who killed for fun instead of the precision weapon his bosses wanted. Now in current time, Batwing, David Zavimbi, and his assistant Matu Ba are in Gotham with Batman ally and tech genius Lucius Fox at Batman Incorporated headquarters around 4:30 p.m. for Batwing suit upgrades. They're here from Africa because of recent business that carried over from Volume 1, and unfortunately for them, tonight is the Night of the Owls, so no time off. I also really like the art with all the various design talents taking to the skies here. Matu and David get invited to a big gala event where our main character is checked out by aroused ladies and then meets brutal leader of an African regime named Matthew Katu, who he cannot stand, but Lucius tells him compromises must be made due to his US backing. The next thing everyone knows is a fire breaks out in the kitchen since this event started around 6:02 p.m, aka the time the Talons began attacking, so David takes off in rather Clark Kent manner and when in the back finds multiple dead bodies followed by Alfred's warning and backup request going out right as Talon Alexander makes an appearance, taking the lives of more people. We got the Talon T-1000 here, sheesh. Batwing hits the scene to kick off the big fight sequence, but with nothing being able to stop Alexander from tranq darts to broken bones, the brawl is moved outside until halted by means of Matthew Katu getting a blade put to his neck from Talon Alex saying that he wants Lucius Fox. Also, what's up with David calling him Ambassador Vanul? Where the hell did that come from? Who friggin' knows? The break Batwing gets is Lucius willing to give himself up, and when his foe gets briefly distracted, he uses specialized explosives to blow their arms off. Instinctual and opportunistic, sure, but we've already seen other Talons take damage like that easily, but that was enough to knock this one out so he could be tied up. Matthew is also quick to thank Batwing, who replies by knocking him out with an elbow to the face, and I'm pretty sure with all of this going down, Lucius surely knows that David is Batwing. Muscular African male from Team Batman Africa arrives at this party randomly, and then so does the titular hero, who both dislike African warlords. Yeah. Batman and Robin number 9 opens on current Robin, Damian Wayne, searching a certain part of the Gotham sewers at 7:38 p.m, which plays a bigger role later in this series, but for now, Alfred contacts him directly after getting out the warning call for help because of the Court of the Owls, saying he must go to protect Gotham Army General Benjamin Burroughs in the nearby Barrens. Robin jetpacks over there where he finds the general doing training exercises and suddenly discovering some of his soldiers are being killed. So after disarming a couple guys, Robin alerts them to the danger that is afoot, with Burroughs knowing of the court's nursery rhyme. He'll never forget it after tonight, as this issue's unnamed Talon pops out from a training pit like a frickin' trapdoor spider, and with options low, Robin flies off Benjamin while some of his men try to defend, but this Talon here is quite savage, causing more death and then Damian to crash his escape gear, injuring the general to the point of unconsciousness. The Talon then goes on to kill 2 random campers, Jason Voorhees style, while searching for his target, who is now being pulled around in a makeshift stretcher by Robin. He's found more soldiers who need convincing to follow him because he's read Karl von Clausewitz and Antoine Henri Gemini. I guess Sun Tzu and Niccolo Machiavelli weren't gonna cut it. But anyhow, after the Talon shows off some impressive bow and arrow skill now, Robin has the soldiers use a rotating defensive square of gunfire to protect burrows, while he catches a projectile with his flippin' hand. Once the bullets run dry, it's time for bayonets, which is right up this Talon's alley, easily besting everyone thanks to being over 200 years old, as seen in a flashback to the American Revolution where the Court of the Owls was already holding power in 1778 Gotham, and placed death warrants on Edward Wilkins and his family due to personally carrying out a secret mission for George Washington. Most of the Wilkins were killed, but one son named Samuel did survive, and Benjamin is his descendant. So this Talon has unfinished business with him. This man is carrying a 2-century-long grudge. Yikes. Robin has heard enough though, going on to put a grappling hook through the Talon's eye, prompting a classic effed up creature twisting their neck to look behind them without turning around. So Robin hangs him from a tree like a nice cozy owl, and because the Talon's threats sound very genuine, along with Robin having no quarrels about killing for the most part, he shows his enemy how it feels to be decapitated. Redhood and the Outlaws number 9 isn't actually the very beginning to this series in the Night of the Owls. For that, we have to briefly go back to issue number 8, where the main trio, Arsenal, Roy Harper, Starfire, Coriander, and Red Hood, Jason Todd, the second Robin, had to make a trip to Gotham. But before leaving, Alfred's warning and distress message comes in, and even though ambivalent on helping, Jay says they are not going anywhere yet. This brings us to about 8:20 p.m. where the team is in Chinatown, and it's looking more like a polar village at the moment due to a Talon going after Mr. Freeze at his lab located here. A big fight is ensuing, with Red Hood then jumping into the action first, with Starfire and Arsenal providing backup, melting the ice, and helping civilians. But the real action begins when a fight between the Talon and Freeze is attempted to be broken up by Jason, resulting in Victor saying, "Piss off." Guess he got the cold shoulder. Oh, that one slipped. The Talon, meanwhile, took off as well, however, doesn't make it far before Red Hood tackles him into one of those cool Chinese dragon puppets, and because of underestimating his skill, Corey and Roy have to back him up as the Talon then takes off again. Starfire and Arsenal next have to take down Mr. Freeze, which seems a bit harder than it sounds at first, but that's only because we need to find out that the Court of the Owls used him for part of his technology in their Talon reanimation process. More to that to come in Batman Annual number 1, but anyway, Corey says shame on him for being an asshole, and Roy subdues him with a powerful 1.21 gigawatts. Great effing Scott, Marty. Red Hood is still chasing the Talon, noticing he's quite the acrobat, which makes sense considering this one is another Haley Circus recruit of the courts named Zhao Long. However, he's a rather tortured soul who never wanted to be resurrected, and because Jay has had a very true hands-on experience with that, he sympathizes with him, agreeing to put Talon Zhao out of his misery for good. Just before 9 o'clock, Jason dumps Freeze at the Bat Signal, no longer casting an owl thanks to Batgirl, and she's now planning to help the Birds of Prey, but has a quick hostile chat with her former Bat ally, who would make an excellent partner to her. These two belong together. Detective Comics number 9 begins on Arkham Island because during a scene-cutting page in Batman number 9, our Dark Knight said he was heading to Arkham Asylum 10 minutes before this issue begins at 8:26 p.m. A couple cops are noticing the place is on lockdown, so no drawbridge operation, but that is no problem for the Talons as they're already on the property. And man, I love this team's artwork. Dr. Jeremiah Arkham is next seen inside with imposing hook-handed guard named Mr. Cash, and they are looking over asylum patients, some old like Clayface and Nocturna, and some new like Steel Jacket and Fright. The most important though is Roman Sionis, aka the Black Mask, who recently returned 2 years ago from being missing. After he and Jeremiah chat, a Talon jumps out from the shadows, but the doc is ready for him with a stun gun, except there are 2 more of them here, so assistance is needed from Batman. Crashing in just before 9 o'clock, and again, just look at that double page spread. Cash also tries to help Arkham while Batman fights the duo of Talons to a standstill, and after Cash doesn't even get to use his hook hand, Jeremiah decides to reconnect Roman with the Black Mask because in the new 52 it's got full-on mind-controlling powers. Very formidable ones. The plan these 2 hatch is to sick all of the now released patients on the Talons, which allows Batman a chance to break loose in the chaos, and he immediately finds Black Mask to subdue him with a batarang to the face. Maybe those powers ain't shit after all. It appears that only one of the Talons made it out of the riot in the Gen Pop area and is now banging on the door to Jeremiah's secret surveillance room, but when it does come down, Batman is there with the unconscious foe. Arkham then gets put to sleep because of his stunt with Sionis and is extracted from the island Dukes of Hazzard style, getting us to the last page where Batman is speaking with Nightwing, saying he needs to find the Birds of Prey and then help Lincoln March, which is where that page in Batman number 9 picks up in the timeline. Speaking of the Birds of Prey, let's get into their issue number 9 next. It starts in 1842 Gotham, where the Court of the Owl's current Talon, Henry Ballard, is making Bill the Butcher look like Bob Ross. Jumping to current time, it is 8:20 p.m. on the Night of the Owls when most of the Talon encounters took place, and for 2 of the 5 current Birds of Prey members, Black Canary, Dinah Lance, and Katana Tatsutoro, it is no different, with them discovering that stabs and canary cries will not work against them. Talon Henry is more of the silent type and clearly brain damaged as he sees his enemies in period-appropriate attire to when he was alive. But anyway, the reason the fight is even happening is because supposedly other BOP member Pamela Isley, or Poison Ivy, was already targeted by him for some reason. The 2 ladies then have to retreat and reassess things, so while hiding in a big church, another member of the group, known as Starling, crashes into the place with her car, right out of a neo-noir flick, or Horse and Carriage in Henry's eyes, as he gets run down violently. Definitely one of the more unique features to the many Talons. The vehicle did hardly any damage to him, as the 3 girls are sort of baited into getting close to him next, and right before snapping a couple of their necks, the last Birds of Prey member to mention, Batgirl, arrives to save them. It's 9:03 when she hits the scene, so let's quickly see if this adds up. Batgirl handled her Talon before 9 o'clock, seen in Redhood's issue, meaning it took her 10 minutes to get here after fixing the bat signal, so yeah, alright. Moving along, because she knows that extreme cold can stop the Talons, Henry is led to a terrain station where he is forced into a meat freezer car. However, the 4 girls aren't enough to keep him inside it, thus bringing in a pissed off Poison Ivy out of nowhere, saying she's got unfinished business with their foe, and goes on to lock herself in the freezing cold area with him due to her plant physiology being able to withstand it. Talk about taking one for the team, damn. And by the way, where was Batman here? Well, he showed up in issue number 10 for about 10 seconds so he could take Talon Henry. Batman The Dark Knight number 9 actually is included between the Volume 1 book, which I haven't covered yet, but I will be doing that this month. Things pick up here at 10:55 p.m. with what happened at the end of Batman number 9 as Lincoln March, a mayoral candidate, and so much more, is being stabbed by a Talon, but right after that electrocutes and then shoots his attacker in the head. Now, in the Batman number 9, Lincoln gives our titular hero a special info note, which is how that issue ends, while at first in this title we get a Talon flashback. This one's name is Alton Carver, and as a boy he was recruited from, you guessed it, Haley's Circus, after the ringmaster at the time made sure he was ready by literally burning his fear out of him. Big yikes. 26 years later, as an adult, Alton turned out to be a less effective Talon in the Court of Owl's eyes because of multiple failed missions according to them, so a new candidate was chosen early and used to try and motivate Mr. Carver. Instead, this fact just distracts him more on another job when he spies on his targeted predecessor, Dick friggin' Grayson. Not only that, but he also gets spotted by the recently surfaced Batman while trying to assassinate someone. This was a really bad inclusion since Bruce Wayne said over and over again in early Batman issues that the Court of Owls doesn't exist, backed up by a lot of detective work did on them, yet this full-on contradicts that. This ain't something he'd forget. Anyhow, this was the final straw for Alton being retired early, but now that he's back for the Night of the Owls after the shortest time of unpleasant rest, this returns us to the moment when Lincoln thought he dealt with him as Batman entered the office to try and rescue him. Talon Alton, just realizing that his name is an anagram for his title, comes back to life to have a brief fight with Batman, but because the Dark Knight has absolutely had enough of these enemies, he ends this scrap by nearly hacking Alton in half and then chucking him out of an over 10-story window, only to then see splattered guts with no body when looking down. So he orders Nightwing, Robin, and Red Robin to find him. But the last we see of this Talon here is him lurking around the sewers all messed up looking. Oh, and by the way, Red Robin Tim Drake being here makes no sense whatsoever. Even if the Teen Titans had a Night of the Owls tie-in that was abandoned, that team was in the middle of the culling event at this time, so things did not add up. Jumping into Nightwing now, his series broke into the Night of the Owls right away due to much more involvement than the others, so I will open here with issue number 8. Things begin in 1910 Gotham with a young boy telling us about his past doing street performances and seeing the city's elite such as Edward Elliot, Burton Crown, Frederick Cobblepot, who isn't the same as Mayor Theodore Cobblepot seen in All-Star Western Volume 1 and 2, even though they look quite similar, maybe a brother or a bit of a misstep in writer communication. Whatever, there's also Alan Wayne, who since has been seen a lot over my past videos I'll mention was created by Devin Grayson and Staz Johnson in Batman Secret Origins and Files number 1, October 1997. The main part of this boy's story is how he stopped a pickpocket one day, except the mark that got their wallet back was the Haley Circus ringleader at the time. Truly, no good deed goes unpunished. The boy was offered a place in the circus, and because of having a dead father and poor mother, he accepted, thus becoming a talented performer, affording him high society access, which is where he met Burton's daughter Amelia Crown, and the two went on to fall in love. Back in the present, Nightwing is doing some investigating work when Alfred's 7:40 p.m. Bat Family backup call comes in, so he responds to Mayor Hades' location seen at his office with Deputy Mayor Kavanaugh, who I remember from Catwoman Volume 1 indulging in naughty activity. They're also with Councilman Davis, and he loses his head after the lights go out thanks to a Talon. Nightwing then crashes in with a wicked double-page spread, enabling the two top leaders of Gotham to escape, and out of all the fights that have happened, the one to come here is the most personal. Because after this Talon gets stabbed in the face by one of our titled heroes' Eskrima sticks, he thinks that he subdued him, only for a second Talon to surprise him, resulting in multiple owl daggers in the chest of Nightwing. And then the reveal that his enemy here is William Cobb, the first Talon that Batman fought and great-grandfather to Dick Grayson. I guess he escaped the frozen Batcave lockdown with no explanation. Nightwing number 9 continues more on William Cobb's backstory from last issue, telling us more about the curmudgeon Burton Crown, finding out that his daughter was in love with what he saw as a peasant circus performer, and not approving of it one bit, so he married Amelia off to a cousin after discovering she was pregnant and shunned William from the family. This sent him into depressive rage, which his recruiter Nathaniel Haley notices, garnering an offer to take on a new purpose in life, otherwise known as intense torture in the Court of Owl's labyrinth maze for months until being deemed worthy of the Talon Mantle. And one of the first things he did was kidnap Dick's infant grandfather from the Crowns to be raised in Haley's circus. Whoa. Nightwing is now the only thing that stands between Haiti, Kavanaugh, and Mr. Cobb, so he tackles him out of the window, and in the last 2 issues it's clearly winter and snowing, yet in every other Night of the Owl tie-in there's in no way, shape, or form displays that it's even cold outside. The creative team here didn't get that note, possibly? Moving on, Talon William has already shown in Batman Volume 1 that he can survive very tall falls onto cars, so Nightwing's attempt here doesn't work either, leading into some fighting and mention that Grayson's less than stellar chat with Batman when he lost a tooth was heard by him. Awkward. Due to massive loss of blood from his first Talon encounter, Nightwing has barely enough energy to string up William in a bid to recoup, but he winds up collapsing into the underground subway system where his foe is hardly deterred, going on to drag his great-grandson deeper below while reminiscing about old times, and also saying how Dick made the wrong decision not embracing his court heritage. The real wrong choice was for Willie here to go into the subway system because when in position, Nightwing reveals that this was all a setup for the liquid nitrogen-filled pipes all around, and after multiple of them are burst open, Talon William is put on ice again as Dick gives his great-grandpappy a lesson about destiny. Imagine having to do that. For the final tie-in, Catwoman number 9, I felt like this one was a bit tacked on here considering she didn't even receive Alfred's Bat Family distress call, but what are you gonna do? For starters, the first time the Court of Owls is seen in this series is quickly in issue number 8, saying that they need to kill the Penguin Oswald Cobblepot. As for issue number 9, it starts in 1665, giving the Talon here Ephraim Newhouse the ability to say he's the oldest one in the event and is first seen killing a little fat man, but because of certain views on murdering without honor, this assassination turns into him having to take down 10 British soldiers and lose one of his 5 sacred owl knives. This isn't his only botched job, so the court decides to retire him into stasis early, but naked and in shame with no weapons. Bummer. Get it? Because we can see his anyhow. So, when he is awakened with the rest of the Talons on the Night of the Owls, records state why he's disgraced, and the current court members say simply, no worries, whack the Penguin and you're absolved. Where the hell is Catwoman, you ask? Well, getting to her now, she's scoping out one of the Penguin's hideouts with a new associate, Spark, who I'll be mentioning a lot when covering this Volume 2 in full, and they end up watching his place until after 2 a.m. in the morning. So, is it really still the Night of the Owls just because it's still dark? Regardless, this is when the two make their move, but before getting in, Talon Ephraim gets in first, taking out Penguin's lurch-looking bodyguard, plus a couple others. Oswald is totally at his mercy, however, when his missing owl dagger is spotted, he stalls, wondering and questioning how it got here, which opens the chance for Catwoman to intervene, even though Sparks said, screw this shit. He of course jumps in to help though, using his water powers. I'm just BSing, his overused electric powers, and after a solid double attack move, Catwoman appears sad that they had to kill him. But like everyone else to fight a Talon tonight, it's realized they're not very easy to take down, as Ephraim shows them this next. Aside from Spark nearly getting choked to death, not much more fighting goes down as Catwoman sees that all her new foe wants is his blade back, and because she conveniently stole the other 4 in issue number 8 and was here tonight due to wanting the 5th, it is said that they will all be returned. Well, Penguin has other ideas popping up and blowing a hole in Ephraim's head and then telling Catwoman she's earned a favor from him. With all the problems that these two have in the future of this series, she's gonna wish that she just let the Talon put down Oswald here. Ephraim is then taken to the Bat Signal, and him being put down so easily was kinda rough. We've seen others of his kind get brutally run over, tossed out of tall buildings, and then thrown into bombs just to walk away. But the campy umbrella gun gets the job done. Hey, Alright. The usual final thoughts for the reviews aren't needed here, as the plots are among the same premise while the art and dialogue varies in every issue. The timeline over the whole event lined up for the most part, with Alfred's call to the Bat Allies being a good anchor point for everyone who was involved, plus some of them saying that the Talons fought and moved like Nightwing have, good continuity. Speaking on who was a part of this, Red Robin randomly showing up was the biggest question mark. I'd say Scott Lobdell didn't get that memo, but he also wrote Redhood and the Outlaws, so I don't know and I don't care. One thing I do care to mention is who wasn't involved, and that's Batwoman. She should have been here due to her Batman relationship, and I would have loved to see what that creative team would have presented. The last thing I want to touch on is the Batman Annual #1. It could have been the perfect chance to bring all the Bat Allies together for one big Talon showdown fighting side by side. It's so rare that they are all in Gotham together like this. But instead, we got the Mr. Freeze going from his acclaimed Batman the Animated Series somewhat sympathetic villain persona to, well, you'll hear about it if you watch my Batman Volume 2 review. I think it's time to end this though, and if you've watched through my entire Court of the Owls and Night of the Owls saga, I want to personally thank you for that very much, and to please like, share, and subscribe. Please follow me on all my social media platforms, and to please join me next time for Batman the Dark Knight Volume 1.